watch it. So welcome everyone. My name is Kathy Rutherford and I am president of Democrats of the Red Rocks, which you probably all know, but just in case you don't. So welcome on this bright, sunny St. Patrick's Day, as everyone was saying. I get the electronic email from Red Rock News and I wasn't able to be there. My husband's 70th birthday was on March 12th. So we were celebrating that in Seattle. So I couldn't be at the parade, but it was an parade. I couldn't believe all the wonderful pictures and great float Democrats of the Red Rocks did. And it looked like a lot of fun. So I just want to wish everyone that celebrates St. Patrick's Day a happy St. Patrick's Day. I also want to recognize that we are all living on ancestral lands, indigenous tribes in Arizona. In recognition of that, I just want to say, that we appreciate what has happened in the past and we are not ignorant of that. And I want to recognize that. If you don't have a question, if you have a question, it's probably best really for everyone to mute themselves. If you have a question, it's really easy to ask that question by pushing on your space bar. You don't even have to unmute yourself. You can just press on your space bar. If for some reason you have a stubborn space bar, then of course you can always unmute yourself. But if you can mute yourself in between, that's helpful. I don't know, sometimes people have barking dogs or husbands that walk through and are saying things to them. It's nice to be muted. Well, let's see. The one thing I thought maybe we would have an announcement about, and if there's others, please let me know, is Frankie, can you please talk a little bit about the film club? I think it's a great thing you're doing with the film club.
Perfect. I was going to ask you if I could make an announcement, so thank you very much. So most of you know that the Democrats of the Red Rocks has a political film group. We meet generally the third Friday at 5 o'clock every month on Zoom. We're meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We watch the movie before, and then we come with drinks and hors d'oeuvres for ourselves because it's Zoom. And then we talk about the movie on Friday. So this week, we are watching a film called Mr. Jones, which is based on a John le Carré experience and is about the Ukraine during the Great Famine of the Russian-induced Great Famine in the Ukraine in the 1930s. It's fiction, but we wanted a film that talked about the Ukraine that would help us understand the history of Russia and the Ukraine, and we thought this will be a good start to a conversation. So anyone is invited. We would love for people to attend. Again, it's tomorrow at 5. You can send. You have to send an email and then I will send you the link, but I'll put the email that you send in the chat. So thanks, feel free to join us. And if not this time, then send us a note and we'll put you on the list for next time. And it's much fun. And it's an opportunity to actually talk about things, talk about topics that we're all dealing with. So thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And other announcements from anyone on the board or anyone that might have something that other people will be interested in? I do want to say we have a new program.
Toby. I can ask people again to contact me if they'd like to be a part of Request to Speak. We meet every Monday. We talk about the bills. We talk about getting onto the legislative site. We're going to have a woman named Kathy Sigmund, who's part of Civic Engagement Beyond Voting, speak next Monday about what you can do when you're on the site beyond the voting, different things that you can find, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of Arizona, where to go for all the names of our legislators and how to kind of maneuver around the bills and find out more information. So that'll be next Monday with Kathy Sigmund. And also, if sometimes we have a time when you just can make phone calls to our legislators, such as the bill on the housing. So you can just email them, or you can just call them. You don't have to request to speak. So I'll put the email for me in the chat. And if you're interested and you're not already with on our email for request to speak, you can join us. And it's kind of fun to be together and do it and talk about these bills. So thank you, Kathy, for letting me speak.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, Toby. I talked to Matt Ryan yesterday. For those of you that live in Coconino County, Matt Ryan he is an incumbent for our supervisory district, and he will be running for office again. And I know a lot of you were involved in redistricting with the Independent Redistricting Commission. And thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for testifying. I know that we are frustrated with the results from that whole process, but Matt assures me that the supervisors themselves are drawing maps to determine what, all the supervisory districts for Coconino County, and I'm sure it's happening in Yavapai County also, will look like. And Matt would like us to comment, those of us who lives in Coconino County, or testify at the upcoming hearings. And so I'm going to send out emails to all of you that I know live in Coconino County. There are some people here that I don't know as well. So if you live in Coconino County, please just put it in the chat so I can make sure to include you. And for those of you who do live in Coconino County, please forward the email to other people that you know that live in Coconino County, because Matt is going to have a bit of a challenge. He lost, who knows whether it was due to an inaccurate census or not, but 1,000 voters in the current district that he has. And so he has to give up part of his district. And by doing that, it could, and it looks like it is likely to create a more red district for him, which he's confident if the spread is not too much, that he can still win that district. So he does need our support and help in this. If you don't know Matt, he is just the most gentle, kind person who really cares. He's a great elected official. So please help him out when I send that email out. There's the testifying on the meetings is a Zoom link. You don't have to go anywhere, so it's pretty easy to do that way. So I wanted to make that announcement. I also want to say thank you to all of the elected officials that are here today. Scott Jablow is one of our councilmen, and Kathy Consilla and Holly Plug are two of our council women who are here. We also have a candidate here, JT, wherever JT is, there he is, and he is running for city council. Am I missing anybody? That's who I see.
Kathy, just to be clear, JT's running for re-election. He's on city council now and running for re-election.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Sorry, JT.
That's okay. Thanks for the reminder. I need it every once in a while.
And I also, Felicia French has come today, and we always want to give her our heartfelt thanks for the 2 times that she ran for LD6. And Felicia is another person that is just an amazing individual. And we're glad to see you here today, Felicia. I haven't told her this, so I hope Lama will be okay with this. We just recently, she smiles, Democrats of the Red Rocks hired a part-time organizer, and that will be Lama Haburn. I'm not sure I'm saying your last name correctly. And she will be in charge of supporting our voter contact. There's nothing more important than we can do during an election season than talk to voters and make sure that they understand what is on the ballot, that they are clear about who's running for office, especially for our city council, because there's no D behind their name for city council candidates. And then for the general election, there will also be propositions that can be very, very confusing. And we get to vote again on home rule this year. Really critical stuff. It's a what do they call it? Midterm election, right? And some people don't think it's important to vote in midterm elections because there's not that wonderful candidate for president at the top of the ballot, but this is an equally important election. And so we need as many people helping us as possible to contact voters to make sure they understand the ballot. A voter that is an informed voter is a voter that votes. So, you know, if you want to help out with that work, let us know. And I'm so excited to have Lama on our team. Well, now, welcome, Lama. Welcome to our team. All right, let's see if I've forgotten anything here. I think that's pretty much it. Is Tom with us yet? He's going to come at 1/4 after.
He's not here yet, Kathy.
He's not here yet. Okay.
Kathy, I have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I can't see your hand.
That's all right. I just wanted to mention that there's only 3 weeks left for getting petitions signed. And so if you haven't signed petitions for mayor, for city council, for statewide races, for everything Arizona, you only have 3 weeks left and people need your support. And I know Sandra Kennedy has been sending out a lot of emails that she still needs her $5 contributions. She's running clean as well as signatures. All of this is available on eQual except for the state legislature because of redistricting.
So if, Shelley, if you could put that link in the chat for people, it's really easy. You do have to have either your driver's license or your voter ID card, one of the two, in order to sign on to the site. And it's all right there. It's really obvious who you can do signatures for. And as Holly said, you can do signatures for everyone except our 3 legislative candidates, our state legislative candidates. We are now in Legislative District 1. And so please go into the office, excuse me, to sign those. Excuse me.
And
Of the
Kathy,
office. Go
we'll
ahead.
have a large presence on Saturday. Are we having a signing event on Saturday at the office? Could you
Yes.
share information about that?
Yeah, thank you. So the office is open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 11 to 3. So it is, you know, election central. So if you need anything, please contact the office, go in and see them. And we are right in, I don't know what happened to my voice. We are right in the middle of PC election season. And so if you have been contacted and you are going to become a PC for the next 2 years, there will be a signing event at the DORR office. You will also get an email about this at 10 a.m. on Saturday. We will have pastries and coffee and tea for you if that's an enticement. But really, it's an easy way to get your 10 signatures for your PC petitions. That's all you need is 10 signatures. So please attend that. That would be great if you can come. It's a much easier way to get your petition signed than try and knocking on your neighbor's doors. One last thing I do want to say, and then Tom is here, is that our meeting next month will be a really important one. We will have our legislative district candidates. I believe our local candidates will be on, it's not legislative, it's city council. Our city council candidates will be on our meeting next month. So make sure that you attend so you can learn all about them. And now I'm going to introduce Tom O'Halleran. So we'll spotlight him in just a second here. All right, so a lot of you probably know Tom O'Halleran. He has represented us for quite a long time and done an excellent job. He represented us in Congressional District 1. We will be in Congressional District 2 this coming election. And he has committed himself to improving the lives of others and working on important issues affecting our communities. He served 3 consecutive terms as a state representative, followed by a term as a state senator. Now, as a US Congressman, Tom is a leader on issues impacting Indian country and rural America, and he is focused on economic development across Arizona. So I want to welcome Tom. And there's 2 ways you can ask questions. You can put them in the chat if you like. When he finishes talking, you can also raise your little electronic hand or your regular hand, and we'll have time for questions after Tom talks. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thanks for all you've done in the past to helping me out, and appreciate it. I just left. I'm right in the parking lot right now, the Capitol. We just left a very small luncheon with the president, and I'm going to be seeing him again this afternoon at the White House. So we've developed a great relationship with him over the last year, and intend to keep that going. You know, I don't know if you've driven up and down Highway 17 recently, but those little orange things you see sticking out of the ground, that's fiber optics. I know the governor of Arizona has indicated that he had a grant for getting that. All of that is federal money from the American Rescue Plan. And there's going to be the same thing going on along the I-40 corridor and along 89A and other highways throughout Arizona. And the American Rescue Plan has already paid about $4.5 million, or no, $450 million for broadband in Arizona. The next plan will come out is the infrastructure bill. That will have a beginning amount of $100 million for broadband. And then we anticipate the ability of broadband, another additional about $700 million to be able to work on that middle mile and then part of the distribution system of broadband in Arizona. In addition to that, the Navajo have decided to spend some of their American Rescue Plan money on broadband also, to the tune of $265 million. And they are in the process of working with the state to be able to identify where that needs to go. And we're working with them also to make sure that we get this middle mile that the governor has been putting around most of the state on rescue plan monies done in areas of the Navajo Nation. And the Hopi are doing the same, but not at that scale yet, as with other tribes. And it's amazing, I think, that this American Rescue Plan, the $1.5 trillion, $1.9 trillion, is being credited. Republicans are taking credit for it throughout the nation, and not one of them voted for it. And so it's not a bipartisan bill. It was totally done by Democrats for the American people. I want to report also that the infrastructure bill, they would like to call it a bipartisan bill. And out of the 213 Republicans in the House of Representatives, we had all of 12 vote for it. And not one of the representatives that are Republicans in the state of Arizona voted for that bill. Not one of them. And in the Senate, there were 17 Republicans actually voted for it. So that is much closer to being bipartisan. And for Arizona, we have had no representation on any of these major bills lately to be able to come out and work on for the people of Arizona. Build Back Better. Obviously, they, along with a couple other people, have been holding that up. We are negotiating now on that bill, and it's my hope it's going to be smaller than 2.1 trillion that the latest number was. We have to find a way, though, to get this bill out to help our children, help our healthcare systems, to be able to address many of the disparities within our country, and it'll be the start of being able to do that, because we will have to look into the future and to be able to recognize, based on the success that I have no doubt that plan, if it is able to get out of the Senate, will be able to have for the rest of America long term, if we can continue to get the funding moving forward. And that's why a president like we have right now is so imperative. Before we get to questions, I'd like to talk a little bit about the conditions within Ukraine. As you know, the press has indicated clearly that we are still providing additional support on the military side. But we are going to have to start to provide a lot of support on the humanitarian side of this equation. And part of the monies that we spent just recently and approved this week, was it this week? Yeah, this week. The $6 billion. Part of that's going to the military, but a good chunk of that's going to be being able to help the countries that are taking in members of the Ukrainian population, the refugees. That is also going to continue, sadly. But we are going to have to start to understand that we as a country are going to be taking in refugees also. And we need to do it sooner than later. And we need to do our part to be able to take some relief off of some of the countries like Poland, that in a short period of time, I don't know how they're doing it actually. 1.5 million people in the course of a little over 3 weeks. It's an amazing feat for a country that does not have the economy that we have, but they do have obviously a close relationship and caring for the Ukrainian people. I am one of those people in the Capitol here. You have not heard me talking about telling the president what to do or not to do on the issues relating to the military side of the conflict, or the intelligence side of the conflict, or the side that deals specifically with the ongoing needs of making sure he is able to keep Europe together. And one of those reasons why I don't have a comment is I don't have the military information that he has to that level. We have a lot of it, but not to that level. We don't get briefed on the intelligence, and correctly so, information to that level. And we definitely don't have the ability to impact the European community and countries around the world like the administration does. What we do have the ability to do is stay united behind the President of the United States at a time when we are coming out of 4 years of somebody trying to destroy NATO, destroy our agreements with the European community, and not allow us to show the unity that America should always show the world and within ourselves. And so let us keep our prayers going for the folks and the children and the families of the Ukraine, their brave leadership, their brave soldiers, and hopefully I'm not going to say that we can say goodbye to Putin yet, because that's going to be a longer term problem. Be prepared for many years of us having to re-engage in the European theater until leaders like Putin are long gone from the Russian history. And on the other side, I'm glad the president is going to speak to China, but that is another complication in this world that hopefully the discussions tomorrow will bear fruit. And I believe that part of that discussion will wrap around the fact that we, the largest customer of China's in the world, and the European community, the second largest, have to send a clear message to China that is not a foregone conclusion in the future if they go down a route of supporting Russia. So with that, I'll take any questions you have. And again, thank you so much for all you've done for helping us out.
Thank you so much, Tom, for being here today. I see a couple of questions in the chat. I'll start with those and then people can put their hands up. Gloria wants to know, in the political ads, the GOP candidates and the governor are taking credit for the projects. Can the Democrats take their due credit publicly?
Well, this is one that will. We are You know, with any new administration, what occurs is that when you try to build a bond up to work with fellow Americans, that's a very difficult situation after the 4 years we've just gone through, and quite frankly, the amount of years before that. We went from 2010 to 2017, with 2018 actually, with the Republicans in total control, and or we had the presidency and they had control of the House and the Senate. So we're at a point now where the president tried to bring us back together. I think it's obvious to all of us that has not occurred yet. And they are who they are. They will do whatever they can to make it look like that they did something that they never did at all. And in fact, not only didn't they do it, they criticized it. The American Rescue Plan was criticized by them time and time and time again. The infrastructure bill was actually criticized by them time and time and time again. We had to get this money out to the American public. So our focus was really not about marketing. It is now. I can tell you by beginning of May, that we've been working with the speaker to try to get a marketing program out to promote what we've been able to accomplish. The infrastructure bill, I've spoken directly to the president multiple times about the marketing concepts that have to come out of that. We cannot keep calling it the bipartisan, which I don't know if I've gotten my message across. It is not a bipartisan infrastructure bill. It is an infrastructure bill that they had some participation in voting, some of them. But our marketing has been terrible. And so we've been trying to get the administration to acknowledge that we have to take credit for what we've done, not just all this bipartisan stuff. And you know me, I'm pretty bipartisan. I want to work with other people. So I'm in a car, by the way, if you can't tell that. And it's raining cats and dogs right outside. But I wish you had that moisture right there where you're at. But we definitely need to do better marketing. And we're putting together a plan within our campaign to be able to address those issues on a issue by issue basis as they come and start to roll out. But right now, our agencies are so overwhelmed that we have a hard time getting information from them about when the monies are being released and where they're being released to. So many times we don't find out about the announcement until after the governor of any particular state rolls the program out within that state.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for that. I have another question in the chat from Holly. Tom, how did Congress react to President Zelensky's speech yesterday? Our hearts are breaking for the people of Ukraine. Is there more that we can do to support the Ukrainians?
Well, first of all, I understand fully how your hearts feel. There were a lot of people in that audience with tears in their eyes. I'm a former police officer. I've seen a lot in life, but my eyes welled up too. It took me until late evening to be able to get myself enough composed after seeing that video. But having seen this week after week after week, and knowing that there is not one iota of reason why somebody should do this to our fellow human beings. This person lacks any sense of humanity at all. And what we can do is show strength. We've expanded now the program so that we are going to bring higher levels of anti-aircraft missiles, surface-to-air missiles into the country. We have started to do the drones that will take out more of their equipment. And we have started what I believe is a highly important piece of this, is to recognize our goal as far as taking care of the human toll of the refugees as they continue over 3 million, on to 4 million, probably on to 5 million. The sooner we can get this resolved, the better. But we do have somebody over there that is not available to want to discuss it right now. I can tell you this, we are seeing such a terrible thing occur. We haven't seen this before in live TV, carried time and time, the immediacy of it. People, think back, I know I was born at the end of World War II, but I had gone through the Korean War as far as being able to know what it was going on, and the Vietnam War and other wars. This is nothing like that as far as the flow of information to the American public and people throughout the world. And so it goes to our hearts immediately. But a third world war is something that we're trying to overcome while helping out the Ukrainians in a way that is not going to lead us there. You would see this is nothing compared to a all full out scaled war in Europe and throughout the world, because we don't know where the Chinese are at right now. And one of the hardest jobs the president has right now is those states that are along, or countries that are along the border with Ukraine, and trying to develop a process where we are able to keep those countries together. Remember, just 6 to 8 months ago, that wasn't the case at all. They were looking across the Atlantic Ocean at us like we were leaderless, like we have left them behind, like they could not depend on us anymore. So it's not just something that Biden wakes up in the morning and says, we're going to do this. I know for a fact, because I've talked to ambassadors and I've talked to their intelligence people. This is an ongoing daily process to keeping the European community together, and the fear that those countries have that are right on that border, and it's palpable. And we have to realize that any wrong move could develop into a much larger scale war with many more people impacted, and the economies of the world crushed under these types of environments that are there. So I would say that yesterday we've made another step. I don't see any way that we can put fighter jets, whether they're old Russian fighter jets or whatever, into the air against the Russian Air Force at this point in time. And we have given, though, I think appropriately, in fact, I had asked for this a while back, that we would get the air-to-ground missiles in sooner than they had been put in. And we sent a forceful letter, a group of us, yesterday, after President Zelensky talked, indicating that we should do everything possible to protect the Ukrainian people, but that we have to do it with the knowledge that only one person has, or a multitude once they all get together. And that is with the input of our military, our intelligence people, our State Department, and the President of the United States working with the European community. We cannot do this alone. We shouldn't do it alone, because sooner or later it is a worldwide issue by some terrorist that happens to run a country.
Thank you for that, Tom. Yeah, I can see that a lot of thought, of course, is going into this, and gives me a little bit of a reassurance. I've noticed it even from what I've been hearing in the news. And we so appreciate all of your work that you have been doing for us for so long and continue to do for us. I do want to say that that we all can help to make sure that the message gets out about what the Democratic Party is doing. There have been a lot of links that have been put in the chat, and I will leave the chat up after the meeting. If you click on any of those links, it automatically opens that web page for you so you can get more information. Peer-to-peer conversations are what changes minds. you know, you are really the best advocates for the Democratic Party. And so talking to your friends, making sure they know about this meeting so that they can watch it later. And Tom O'Halleran needs every single one of our votes, as all the candidates do. Make sure you talk to your friends about that too. Thank you so much, Tom, for the time that you've taken to be here this morning. We so appreciate it. And
Thanks a lot. I'm back in Arizona for a week, starting Friday evening, and I'm on the ground the whole time. So I get back there. I'm throughout the district for the next 9 days after that, and then back here. So thanks a lot, everybody. Hope to get to see you all soon.
thanks, Tom. Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Our next speaker is Kris Mayes, and we'll have her up in just a second. So Kris is running for the Arizona Attorney General, and she is a native Arizonan and a former corporation commissioner who is running, as I said, for Attorney General. She earned her law degree from ASU and a master's of public administration from Columbia University in New York City. Since 2010, she has worked as a senior sustainability scientist at ASU School of Global Sustainability and teaches a course on energy law. During her time as corporation commissioner, Kris worked to preserve Arizona's increasingly threatened water resources by overseeing one of the largest expansions of the utility water conservation programs in state history. And now she's running for AZ Attorney General. So welcome, Kris. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, I'm Kris Mayes. Just one letter change. Mayes.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, it's great to be with all of you. I am so pleased to be with you. I remember fondly the picnic we did last year. I think it was last fall. I may remember it for the rest of my life. I had the chance to bring my daughter with me. I can't think of a more beautiful and picturesque venue than that one. So I can't wait to get back up to join you. I am Kris Mayes, running for Attorney General this year. I'm running for Attorney General because I think we have never faced a more perilous time in our state's history and in our country's history and for our democracy. And whether or not we elect a Democratic Attorney General this year will spell the difference between whether or not our democracy survives in this country. And I do not believe that is too hyperbolic to put it that way. American democracy runs through the state of Arizona, and it runs through the results of races like the Attorney General's office. And I know you've got Adrian up next. Adrian Fontes also runs through offices like Secretary of State and the governor's office. We have to protect our democracy. And that is order number one when I become Attorney General. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to just talk a little bit about my background. Many of you already know me and we've been friends for a long time, but I did serve 2 terms on the Arizona Corporation Commission. And when I was a commissioner in the 2000s, I was appointed by Governor Janet Napolitano. By the way, yes, 2 days ago, we had a press conference. We announced that Governor Napolitano is my campaign chairman, as is President Jonathan Nez of the Navajo Nation, as is Regina Romero, the mayor of Tucson, as is Spence Udall, the great mayor of St. John's in Apache County, and Danny Ortega, who is the great civil rights leader in Arizona and lawyer, as is a Corporation Commissioner Sandra Kennedy, who I had the great joy of working with from 2008 to 2010. So we're building momentum on this campaign. But when I was on the commission, and this is what I want to do as Attorney General, we got big things done for the state of Arizona. And I think we proved we can do that if we elect people who walk into these offices every day with a servant's heart and with the heart of somebody and with one thing on their minds, and that is serving the people of Arizona as the people's lawyer. When I was Corporation Commissioner, we passed Arizona's first renewable energy standard, which has saved billions of gallons of water for our state and prevented tons of emissions from entering our air. We passed the nation's best energy efficiency standard. We are #1 in something in this country, and it's for our energy efficiency standard. That one standard that Sandra Kennedy and I passed saved Arizona ratepayers $9 billion with a B and prevented the need for our utilities to build 15 power plants by just telling them and having the courage to tell them, no, don't build those big power plants, do energy efficiency. It's cheaper, it's better for the environment. We also passed one of the best solar net metering laws that allowed Arizona to be one of the top 5 states in the country for rooftop solar energy. And this is not well known, but we oversaw, when I was the chairman of the commission, the largest expansion of water conservation programs in Arizona history, because we regulated 350 water utilities across the state and told them they needed to do more water conservation. And that is one of the things that I want to do as your next attorney general. I am going to be the first attorney general in Arizona history to make fighting climate change a top priority. You all see this every day in Sedona, every day in Yavapai County, which, by the way, I was born and raised in. I am the only statewide candidate right now who was born and raised in Yavapai County, born and raised in Prescott. But you cannot look anywhere in northern Arizona, and you all know this, you can't look at Lake Mead and the bathtub rings forming around Lake Mead and hear that Lake Mead is entering dead pool status, which is a very, very scary word, which means basically that we're not going to be able to pull water out of Lake Mead, and we're not going to be able to produce hydroelectricity at those dams. And believe that the Republicans have, and not believe that the Republicans have failed miserably on climate change and on addressing our natural resources. They have done nothing to address the water crisis that we are facing. And I will do that as your next attorney general. But look, like I said, I think the top priority is restoring integrity to the attorney general's office, bringing us back to a place where we have an attorney general who is more focused on protecting our democracy than on landing his next political gig, which is what Mark Brnovich has been doing as attorney general, and which, by the way, is what landed him in legal rehab before the state bar of Arizona. We need an attorney general who will restore ethics to this office. Mark Brnovich sat by and did nothing during the fraud. Nothing. I would have legally intervened to stop the fraud. And I don't believe for a minute that these Republicans at the legislature are going to stop this insane attack on our democracy. Mark Brnovich has done virtually nothing, it looks like, or very little, to investigate the slate of fake electors that was sent up. It's outrageous. And so we need an attorney general, and I will be that attorney general who is committed to the rule of law. We also need an attorney general who will stand up for reproductive rights. We believe that it is highly likely that Roe versus Wade, and I can't believe I'm saying these words, that Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned in June. And what the Supreme Court is likely to do is they're going to send it back to the states, and they're going to say, states, you decide, or some version of that. And we already have a legislature. And again, let me just back up and say Arizona is one of the few states with zombie anti-abortion laws already on the books that would already automatically go into effect when the Supreme Court overturns Roe, making it effectively illegal in Arizona. As you know, the legislature is really busy right now passing one ban after another, including a 15-week ban that has no exceptions for rape or incest, no exceptions. In addition to other bans like the Texas ban with its bounty provision, punishing people, allowing individuals to put a bounty on people, punishing people who would help women seeking reproductive services. What I told the Washington Post recently, and I will reaffirm this to you today and to anyone, to all Arizonans, is that as your next Attorney General, we will never prosecute a woman or a doctor or a friend of a woman seeking reproductive services and seeking an abortion in the state. And that is because of my interpretation of the Arizona Constitution and the right to privacy in the Arizona Constitution. We are not putting women in prison for having an abortion, full stop, in the state of Arizona. And I can promise you that 6 Republicans who are running for Attorney General are not making that promise. And I think it's highly likely that they would prosecute women if abortion falls and when abortion falls. So this is such an incredibly important race for so many reasons. And again, last thing I want to say, and then love to take your questions. We just have to restore this office to what it was meant to be, which is, this is the lawyer for the people. I want to be the people's lawyer. I want to be the lawyer for the people of Prescott, my hometown, and Sedona and Flagstaff and Patagonia and Lake Havasu and Winslow and Sierra Vista and Nogales. I want to be the lawyer for all Arizonans. And it is long past time that we had an Attorney General who's focused not on being Donald Trump's attorney, but on being the attorney for the people of our great state. So let me end there. I want to just again say thank you for everything you do. There's so many amazing leaders in Sedona, in and around Sedona, and I can't wait to get to work with you on all of the issues, pressing issues that we have facing our state.
Thank you so much, Kris. That was so informative. You covered so much territory, and that was an excellent, delivery to us so that we know what you stand for. Are there any questions that you still might have for Kris?
One thing, Holly, Councilwoman.
Yeah.
Hi, Kris. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Can you tell us about your campaign? How is it going? What's your competition look like? I mean, you certainly have got great endorsements from leaders across the state, but what can we do to help you?
Oh, thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, it's going great. We've got to raise money. I think we are well suited to and positioned to be competitive. Obviously, the Republicans are out there raising money. The top Republican on the top Republican fundraiser is a fellow named Rodney Glassman. He appears to have raised close to $1 million, and just did a fundraiser with Paul Gosar in Prescott, and got endorsed by Paul Gosar. So it is super proud of the fact that he got endorsed by Paul Gosar. Can't believe that. But he's fully willing to stand right beside a white nationalist and a guy who supports white nationalism. But that's what we have to defeat. All 6 of those Republicans are really of the same ilk. They are all saying largely the same things, and we just have to defeat them. So we got to stay competitive. I think we can do that. It's an open seat. So I do think that the fact that it is an open seat makes this very competitive for us. And I don't believe that Arizonans, buy into this notion of politicizing the Attorney General's office the way that Mark Brnovich has done and the way that it's clear that all 6 of these Republican attorney general candidates will do if they're elected. You know, I don't believe the independents, certainly we as Democrats don't believe in that. I don't believe moderate Republicans think that's what we ought to be doing. I certainly don't think the 1/3 of the independent voters in the state think that's where we should be going. So thanks for the question. And we'll be coming up to Sedona definitely, hopefully soon for a fundraiser. So thanks for that question.
You will.
I also want to say hi to my friend John Thompson. So great to see you. Such a great leader on solar energy, and really appreciated working with him. Last thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this, should have. Look, the Attorney General's office is really an office that's should be very focused on protecting consumers. And as you know, that's something I worked very hard to do as a corporation commissioner. This is an office that's really ought to be spending much of its time going after consumer fraud. I did that on the Corporation Commission. We prosecuted civil securities fraud, restored tens of millions of dollars in restitution to the victims of fraud as a corporation commissioner, working with the Attorney General's office. And, you know, I'm also, you know, I'm strong, and you guys know that. When Kinder Morgan's pipeline, gasoline pipeline, I don't know if you remember, burst north of Tucson in the 2000s, I flew to Houston and I looked Richard Kinder in the eye, who, by the way, is one of the wealthiest men in the country and in the world, a multi-billionaire. And I said to him, the owner of the Kinder Morgan gasoline pipeline, I said, you will, by the time I'm done in office, repair or replace all 617 miles of your pipeline in my state. You will get that done by the time I'm done. And by the time I was done, all 617 miles had been repaired and replaced, so that we don't have that kind of an incident again in our state.
Thanks, Kris. Other questions? Peggy has her hand up, I see.
Thank you so much. I'm just thrilled to listen to your platform. And I attended the Corporation Commission hearing the other day and was on for a few hours, and that's why I missed the neighborhood meeting, Kathy. I'm so sorry, but so many people were commenting about the Salt River Project proposed expansion by Coolidge that would destroy the town of Randolph, which is total a racial initiative. They've actually, some line sighting committee member said, you know, just move your town. You know, so I mean, it's so amazing how we were moving so far and then had to come back. And I feel so wonderful that we have this opportunity to really get our engines going again. We have to really elect climate candidates. We need to be not just narrowly on that, but, you know, human rights, the value of women's rights, human life, health. Thank you so much. I just hope that people stay engaged by looking statewide at things that are happening when we're not paying attention, like Salt River Project not following its procedures, pushing things through, like putting in this giant power plant that is so regressive. Anyway, I encourage.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment. And the absolutely, you know, SRP is planning this giant gas plant, despite the fact that it's a total reversal on what they told the people of Arizona that they were going to do, which is move aggressively toward decarbonization of their grid. What is worse, as you point out, is that they're trying to plop this gas plant with all of its carbon emissions right next to a historically African-American community of Randolph. I cannot believe why they thought that was a good idea. I cannot understand why they thought that was good. It's a terrible idea. It's an incredibly insensitive idea. And it harkens back to some of the worst decisions, worst public policy decisions that our some state leaders in the distant past have made. Interesting enough, you know who appoints the chairman of the line sighting committee that you spoke of that made that decision? The Attorney General.
Oh, so I totally apologize, but I have to chair another meeting, so I'm going to jump off. But thank you so much. I'm energized by your.
Thanks for that question. And I will appoint a chairman of that line sighting committee who will make good decisions on behalf of the state of Arizona.
Thank you so much, Kris. I hope I didn't miss anyone else that had a question. Okay, thank you. Oh, Scott, yeah, this will be the last question for Kris. Go ahead, Scott.
Kris, thank you for coming today, even by Zoom. I remember speaking with you at the picnic up at Posse Grounds Park, and I was really so overwhelmed with some of the insight that you have on Sedona and the Verde Valley as a whole. I was wondering if you could, while it's very small comparison to all the topics you talked about a few minutes ago, can you talk about local control? And the other day when I talked to you a couple of months ago, you really had the great insight into it, and it was very impressive. But could you share with the people here, because that's local control, short-term rentals is huge for the Verde Valley. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, and I thank you, Scott. I had the opportunity to speak with council members like you and Holly, and really have incorporated a lot of what we talked about, and have had the opportunity since that conversation to give this a lot of thought and a lot of about what the Attorney General can do about this. And also have spoken to leaders like Mayor Romero, who shares your dismay over the fact that the legislature is preempting time and time again cities from being able to make the decisions that you think are right for your community. I don't know about you, but I do not know how we've gotten to a situation in which Republicans are no longer the party of local control. I mean, let's face it, Republicans are the party of big government now. And Democrats are the party of local control and of allowing municipalities to make reasonable, common sense decisions, pass reasonable ordinances that make sense for the citizens of their towns and cities that they're most in touch with. And this legislation that has allowed the legislature and the Attorney General to preempt you in your ordinances is outrageous. It's outrageous, and it needs to end. And here are the two or three things I'm going to do about it. Number one, we need to get rid of it. We need to overturn it. And I will advocate for overturning it. Number two, I will have a lot of discretion when I am Attorney General, when those complaints are sent to me by legislators or others alleging that cities are violating state law. Okay, so there's a lot of discretion allowed to the Attorney General in that process of determining whether or not a city has violated some legislative determination or law. Number three, I would like to have someone ask me for my opinion as Attorney General about the constitutionality of that bill, of that law, and in relationship to home rule, in relationship to your authorities as council members and mayors. So let's just say there's going to be a lot of conversation when I'm Attorney General, and a lot of focus on this issue. And again, Scott, I really appreciate you guys bringing this to my attention, because it really has become a big part of my campaign.
That's wonderful. How about with Prop 207? That would fall back. The state could, abolish the ordinance but it would still fall in the hands of the local cities and towns that would end up getting sued by eliminating them. Do you have any idea of a way around that?
Yeah, I need to, well, we need to think that through. So
Okay.
let's have a conversation about that. Yeah, but yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your concern about local cities and towns. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I have to just again tell you, everywhere I campaign all across Arizona, you are not alone. Every single city and town is concerned about this. And it is just outrageous, and it needs to be addressed.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Kris, for being here today. We really appreciate your time. Looking forward to you coming back up to Northern Arizona and seeing us. And thank you for running.
Me too. Thanks, Kathy. It's great to be with y'all. Good to see you guys.
Bye. All right. So our last speaker for today is Adrian Fontes. So we'll get him up here, spotlighted. There we go. Hello, Adrian. How are you?
I'm great, Kathy. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. So Adrian is running for Secretary of State. And of course, we've all been paying attention to what's been happening with Katie Hobbs, and especially during the 2020 election and everything she had to deal with. And we know how critically important this office is, as is all the offices that we've been talking about this morning. So as Adrian was a Maricopa County recorder, and he was the first countywide elected Latino that was elected to office. He worked tirelessly against voter suppression and making voting more accessible, transparent, and secure. And he's an Arizona native, born and raised in the border town of Nogales. He spent his career advocating for justice and fighting for the disadvantaged as a prosecutor in Colorado, Maricopa County, and the Arizona Attorney General's office. Adrian is also a proud father of 3 daughters and enjoys his part-time mariachi hobby. I thought that was cool. That was included. So I'll turn it over to you, Adrian.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me, everybody. And like my friend Kris Mayes says, one of her great distinctions is having been born and raised there in Yavapai County in Prescott. One of the things that distinguishes me also in your neck of the woods is that I am the only candidate ever in the history of the state to have ridden in a gymkhana in Cornville, Arizona. So I proudly hold that distinction, and I'm happy to be here with you all this morning. I am running for Secretary of State. My name is Adrian Fontes, and we have to make sure that we keep the faith. What has ended up happening over the last several years, particularly under the auspices of that golden calf from Mar-a-Lago, is that people just don't believe in one another anymore. We don't believe in our fellow citizens who swore an oath to run free and fair elections. We don't believe in one another as Americans anymore. But most of that comes from the other side of the political aisle, because I believe that Democrats have kept the faith, and we've done very well in that regard. So for all of you who are still fighting, for all of you who are getting petition signatures and helping campaigns in so many different ways, thank you for keeping the faith and making sure that hard work gets done. Quick bio, I was born and raised down in Nogales, Arizona. I'm from a family that's been there for a very long time. I get a chuckle when I hear folks saying their family's been in this state for 3 or 4 generations. And I usually don't say much, but I had an ancestor who heard mass given by Father Kino in 1695 in Janos, Chihuahua. So the Fontes family goes back a little ways, and I carry that with me. My great-grandfather had to speak Yaqui in order for his in-laws to allow him to marry his bride, my great-grandmother. And together they sent 5 of their sons to serve this nation in World War II. My great-grandparents, we were a 5-star family from then. They had 16 kids, so they had a couple to spare. But in all seriousness, no, they all came back safe, thankfully. My grandfather was in the Navy, and he ended up serving a time as the mayor of Nogales, Arizona, while part-time, or his full-time job was to be the yardmaster for the Southern Pacific there at that very important railroad crossing into the United States from Mexico in Nogales. All of this idea of services is what led me to run for Maricopa County Recorder in 2016, when you heard of the 4- and 5-hour long lines to vote. And we won that race against a 28-year incumbent. In fact, my predecessor was never challenged by a Democrat. She got elected originally in 1988 here in Maricopa County, never challenged. We ran against her and we won thanks to folks like you. We are running against Trump endorsee and Mark Fincham for Secretary of State, and we hope we can depend on folks like you to help make good things happen and keep this office in insane hands after November. But while I was the Maricopa County Recorder, we did some great stuff. In fact, we did a lot of borrowing from good folks around the state. Your county recorder, Leslie Hoffman, has been running vote centers in Yavapai County for a long time. We adopted that model here in Maricopa County, and it resulted in an increase of ballots cast even during a pandemic by 600,000 ballots in 4 years alone, from 2016 to 2020. And that was after we increased the number of registered voters in Maricopa County. Think of these numbers. When I took office, Maricopa County had 2.1 million registered voters. When I left office, we'd increased that by 500,000 to 2.6. Think of the proportional increase in the number of registered voters. Why did we do that? Because we reached out to traditionally underserved communities. We won a national award from the Election Assistance Commission in Silver Springs, Maryland, a federal commission that oversees the assistance of elections administrators. It was a competitive contest that we won the award in. And that roundtable project reached out to Native American voters, Latino voters, African American voters, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, but two other voting populations that traditionally get underserved and ignored. One was college and university students, because they have unique challenges in the transitory nature of their addresses at those young ages, especially when they're just starting into their voting careers as citizens. And two, voters with disabilities. My grandmother had a stroke when I was a 6-year-old boy, and in 1976, we didn't have all the amenities that folks have now, as we see around the Metro Phoenix area and so many other places. Nogales wasn't really equipped for a wheelchair. And so access to basic services, access to fundamental rights has always been a very critical part of the way that I view the world. I'd like to take all of the ways that we did these things statewide, and I've already to a degree done so. When I left the county recorder's office, I was enlisted to come down and be the chief deputy recorder in Tucson for Gabriela Cáceres Kelly, the first indigenous countywide officer in Pima County. And now Pima County has vote centers. The legacy continues, and they'll have a ballot tracking system, which I'd like to take statewide. And for those of you that vote by mail, which is probably 90% of you, if not more, our ballot tracking system, you sign up for, you get an instant email or text message when your ballot is coming to you in the mail, and when it gets returned to the election department, and when it gets signature verified and sent for tabulation. That way you know that that automatically generated message shows you essentially as a receipt that your ballot was received by election officials. You know, it was counted. We did this in Maricopa County. It's a very popular program. We've got well over 100,000 subscribers, and we can do well to make that happen statewide. I have experience creating these sorts of electronic systems. We secured the election system here in Maricopa County. In fact, Broward County ain't got nothing on Maricopa when it comes to analysis of election systems. Let's not forget, our good friends, the Cyber Ninjas, showed us that the single most highly scrutinized election system in the history of American elections, Maricopa County 2020, that was my system. I was the chief architect for that and the leader of the bipartisan team that made it happen. We started the RFP, new tabulation system, new ways of communicating with voters, new IT systems, and we won. We did a phenomenal job for all of our voters. And let's not forget, academics, news outlets, partisans, hacks, everybody looked at our system in ways that no one had ever looked at an election system. We are now the standard bearer in Maricopa County, and the rest of Arizona could do well to make those kinds of investments in local election offices at every county across the entire state. And that's why I've been across the entire state. Just yesterday, I had a breakfast, coffee, and Flagstaff, having been in Winslow the night before. I was at Heber Overguard and at Star Valley, just north of Payson, day before yesterday. We're getting around the whole state. I was in Yuma County at the County Historical Society dinner. Wonderful place to be, Sierra Vista. And we've been all across Arizona, Tucson. I've been to Yavapai County, Cottonwood. We're going to get up to hopefully Sedona very soon. We're looking for dates on the calendar to make that happen so we can visit in person, because this is a very important office and the whole state is really important when it comes to these statewide offices. And we're getting a lot of attention, and here's the critical part. Before I get to that, though, I want to let you know, not only did we administer one of the best elections in the country, but as an attorney, as a Marine Corps veteran, and as one of the only, actually the only person who's ever run for Secretary of State who already has a CIRA certification. I'm a certified election and registration administrator out of the Election Center in Auburn University. I'll be the most qualified Secretary of State to take office ever here in Arizona. And I'd like to have your support. And this office is taking a lot of attention, and it's becoming a national race. We've already been in media outlets like Politico, the Washington Post, the LA Times had a column on us on Tuesday. The New York Times, the Guardian, Midas Touch podcast, I think I mentioned that one. We and the work that we've done, the work that I've done, have garnered a lot of national attention. And here's one of the scary reasons why. I'm running against a candidate who's part of the National Coalition of America First Candidates for Secretary of State. I mentioned him earlier. He's endorsed by Donald Trump. He's going to be going on a 26-state fundraising tour to make sure that Donald Trump wins in 2024, regardless of what Arizona voters say. He's all but said that flat out. We absolutely must defeat those candidates, because it's not just him. They're across the entire country: Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin, Georgia, and right here in Arizona, we are ground zero. Kris Mayes said it herself, and it's true. We have to be very cognizant of the fact that democracy is going to live or die in the Grand Canyon State. And I am the bulwark against that to make sure that we have a certification that matters. So yes, we're involved in primary. We are going to make the ballot. We haven't made any formal announcements yet, but we're really good on petition signatures. In fact, I was just with one of my staffers here looking at some of those coming in. We're in phenomenal shape because of folks like you, because of folks across Arizona who've been sending in those petition signatures, who've been doing the eQual online signing. And I want to make absolutely certain that these systems work better. One other real quick thing I want to mention about the Secretary's office and my experience for it. You know, it's not just elections. It happens to be the lieutenant governorship, and it also happens to be a critical component in trademark registration, notary public certification, and a lot of other registries. When I was the Maricopa County recorder, online recordings didn't post for 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months after the recording happened. And we know that that stopped a lot of economic activity here in Maricopa County, just because that one office was not being efficient. We took that filing from filing to posting online. We took that number from 6 weeks average down to 72 hours. And that helped a lot. And I've spoken with a lot of folks in a lot of different parts, from real estate to small businesses who do loans based on these filings to developers. And they've all said that that little bit of efficiency has really helped their business. I understand the value of business, but more importantly, the relationship that government offices like this, the kind of the ministerial work that the Secretary's office does to help the guts of our economy move forward so that folks can maintain those opportunities and keep them up. That's critically important to recognize as well. And so I like mentioning those things. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we've been on the call for a bit, and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. But I just want to leave you with my website. It is electfontes.com. As you know, the end of the quarter is coming up, and it's very important. Electfontes.com. And remember this, Democrats, we've got to put a candidate on the table, particularly in this office, who's going to be able to win statewide. And I'll just come right out and say it. These are just numbers. I think my opponent is a great guy in this primary, but he's never run against a Republican. And he's only run in a South Phoenix district that is D+35. That's not what Arizona looks like. And he's also come in second place in 2020, 2018, and 2016 in that D+35 district. I, on the other hand, running in Maricopa County, the second largest jurisdiction in the country, with 2/3 of Arizona's voters in it, I've always beaten the Republican voter registration advantage. Independents like my message. Republicans respect the fact that I'm a Marine Corps veteran and a father, and that I'm pragmatic. And I've worked very closely with plenty of Republicans of the McCain-Goldwater ilk, and I'm very happy to continue to do so as the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State and ultimately your Secretary of State. I'm Adrian Fontes, happy to answer questions. Kathy, thanks for having us. And I look forward to look forward to continuing the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. I have one in the chat to start with. This is from Lana. She met you a while ago, and you probably remember that. Given all the recent attacks against the EVIL, which we now have to call it instead of the PEVIL, no more permanent, what is your plan for protecting Arizonans' right to vote by mail?
Well, the plan is really very direct and very simple. We continue to do what we've done and get more voters on the early voting list and make it very painful for the legislature to justify removing the permanence from it. You know, the permanence in the permanent early vote list is not that new. We've been voting by mail absentee since the early 90s, but it wasn't until 2006, 2007 that the permanent list was created by the legislature. And why? Because voters demanded it, because more than half of our voters were getting a postcard in the mail to ask them if they wanted to vote by mail. And again, more than half of them were returning it saying yes. And so it was a question of economics. It was a question of efficiency to make that happen. When we talk to and about these issues, 9 times out of 10, the data will drive a better policy decision. They don't have good policies on the Republican side of the aisle. Right now, their main policy is own the libs. That's all they care about. Like the president said just the other day, ask your friends, what are the national Republicans for? And I ask you in Arizona, what are Republicans for versus what are they against? They're certainly not for voters. And I think it is a fool's errand that they've engaged in, particularly given the nature that they created early voting in Arizona. They promoted early voting in Arizona. They developed very, very secure voting systems in Arizona where voters would get their ballots in the mail. Their voters are going to let them know. And so I think we just keep the faith. We keep on marching. We keep spreading the good word and making sure that more people sign up. It is politics at the end of the day is about popular vote. It's about popular sentiment. It's about moving public servants towards serving the public. And I think they've gotten a little bit off the tracks here. I'm being kind to them. Actually, they've become complete wackadoodles, and that's okay sometimes. Because those of us who are reasonable, sane, and pragmatic, those of us who you can rely on just to deliver a good product and service from your government, we're the ones who are going to be victorious at the end, obviously with help from folks like you. So thanks for that question.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Adrian. Was there somebody? Did I miss something? Yeah, I'm really excited that you're running for this office. You know, you did amazing things as a Maricopa County recorder and spread it throughout the state. That was interesting. I didn't know about Leslie Hoffman's system being spread about the state, including, you know, Coconino County also have a ton of ballot boxes now due to those efforts, and it has made it much easier to vote. And of course, what we will all do is get as many people to vote in every single election, and then they stay on the early vote list no matter what it is, right?
And I think the critical component here is really this. Look, we hear a lot in the chatter, we hear a lot out there in the world, in the media and all of this sort of stuff. But behind the scenes, folks like Leslie Hoffman, folks like Robin Poquette down in Yuma County, folks like Wendy John up in Graham County. These are Republican county recorders, election administrators, and a lot of their boards of supervisors. They just want their folks to vote. They just want a good, solid system that they can rely on. And there's a bipartisan team of folks across the entire state who have been working together for a long time to make that happen. And we've done very, very well. Of conspiracy theorists and sort of Trump sycophants, they're turning off a lot of their voters. And so we've got a lot of hope. There's a lot of room for us to take many of these statewide offices. We should never lose focus, however, on those down ballot races that are so critical to the movement forward of our state. I know Holly's on the line here. She knows how important municipal governments, county governments are to our society, to the way that this democracy works to serve the Republic and its citizens and residents. So let's never, never, never forget our down ballot races. Let's never forget that there's plenty of room for cooperation when level heads get out from the headlines. and get into those boardrooms and actually make the things happen. Keep up the faith, folks. Keep up the good work. We will be victorious in the end. And I'm so excited to be able to be heading up there. I don't have a confirmation or hard date yet. So once we get that, we'll make the announcements. And thank you so much, Kathy, and everybody else on the call. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adrian. And so I want to say one more time to all of you, please share that this recording will be on our website. It will come to email. Hopefully you're all on our email list. If you're not, please, make sure that you let us know and we'll get you on that email list. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. That's the most important thing that all of us can be doing. So I'm looking out my window at the forest and there's a lot of green out there. So I think that's what we should all do today. Get out in the green for a little while and breathe that fresh air that we have here. That's the healthiest thing we can all do. It was so nice seeing all of you. We'll see you next month.